Yay, HTML. Okay. This video, it'll probably be about, well, you'll be able to see how long it is, but my guess is it's going to be around 45 minutes of HTML basics. And so, and I stress basics because my goal in making this video is to kind of address the absolute beginner, while not totally boring those who have had some HTML experience. But just be forewarned, if you've made a website before, if you understand HTML, you're probably better off just like stopping here, because I doubt you're going to learn too much. But you might be kind of interested in some of the stuff I'll do in the beginning. But once we really get into, creating the HTML that we're going to create, you may not find this as useful. But for the rest of you, it will be. So what is HTML? It's a markup language. It's used by web browsers in order to structure a web page or web app's information and features. Clearly, and very importantly, it is not a programming language. So a programming language has logic that, for example, you can have a condition, and if that condition is true, you can do something, and if the condition is false, you can do another thing. In HTML, that's not possible. So HTML is just purely a markup language. Think of it as a way of structuring a document, and that's really what it is. And if it sounds kind of boring, it's not. It's really important. Any website that you visit or web app that you use, at the end of the day, your browser is interpreting HTML in order to show that wonderful page to you. So it's important that you understand it. And then what does it stand for? It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So don't say that, just say HTML. So what do you need in order to follow along and do this stuff? So the basics, you need a web browser and you need a text editor. So I'm going to recommend Google Chrome as your web browser. You should know how to get that. I'm sure you already do have it. And then as a text editor, I'm recommending VS Code. Which is not just a text editor. It's actually much more than that. And so for those of you who do not have VS Code, here's how you get it. If you go to code.visualstudio.com, and you can download it for your operating system. I'm on a Mac, so it says download for Mac. Once you download it, open it up. It won't look like this. It'll look a little different, mainly because you have a different theme. So I'm using a theme called Dracula, which I like a lot. It's just lots of cool colors and stuff. And if you want to change your theme, you can go to Code, Preferences, Color Theme, and then play around. There's dark themes, light themes. People care about this stuff a lot. So my particular theme isn't included by default, so you need to add that as an extension, which is not a bad thing to do, to learn about extensions, because that extends the power of the text editor and allows you to do lots of cool stuff. So I guess 2 extensions I'm going to recommend. I mean, there's many I recommend, but 2 I could recommend for you now would be, if you like this color theme I'm using, you too can get it if you just type in Dracula and choose this Dracula thing here, and you'll see it'll say, instead of disabled, it'll say installed. It's kind of popular. It's got about 1 million people. If you don't like this color theme, then you can find one that you do enjoy. If you don't really care, then you don't have to do anything. And another theme that you might see and like is icons. So I'll choose icons here. And this first one, VS Code icons, it's really popular. It's got over 8 million downloads. This adds icons to tell you at a glance what type of file it is or what kind of folder it is. And it adds some color. It makes things feel a little more organized to me. So that's something else. If you're like, oh, I like how his stuff looks, how did he get it like that? I mean, that's one way. And there's a few others. And I'll do this if you want to see what I have installed. These are all of the extensions that I'm currently using here. So I'll expand that. Some are better than others. And so these are the extensions, like Indent Rainbow or Beautify or Bracket Colorizer. So if you see things that you like, you can go ahead and take a look at those and just search in extensions, install them, restart the IDE, and you're ready to go. Great. So that's what you need. Once you have that, you're ready to create an HTML file. So to create an HTML file, you don't need a server. The files have to end in .html extension. You run them in a web browser. And in general, index.html file. Index.html is the name of the file you give to be the home page of whatever web app or site you're making. And so you don't see that when you do, but you don't really see the word index.html when you visit google.com. But the server or servers that are serving the HTML to the browser that you're using generally are looking for a file called index.html as the home page. So when you run those servers, or if somebody visits the server, then that's what should be returned by default. It's possible to change it, but in general, we all just use index.html to represent the root, if you will, of our file. So when you see HTML, which you're going to see very soon, it's just a collection of tags. And within those tags, there's some content. Tags are element names. They're surrounded by brackets. They normally have an opening and a closing tag. So they come in pairs. And an opening tag would have the tag name, and the closing tag would have a / the tag name. Some tags also close themselves. So at the bottom here, the BR, which stands for line break, that tag actually closes itself. The image tag also closes itself. By closing itself, I mean you don't need to have two. You could just have one, which would be tag name, some stuff in the middle, and then a / and close the tag with a greater than sign. On the left, I've given a couple examples of high-frequency tags like H1, which stands for header. H2 would be a smaller header, generally H3 all the way down to H6. And then P stands for paragraph, and that's generally paragraph text. That's a tag, and you notice both of those have opening and closing tags. And then the last one that's used quite a bit is BR for line break. Here's some HTML, like a basic HTML document as it's laid out. This is sometimes called like boilerplate, or it's like the stuff you should have and you must have in many cases. So it's not just like start writing tags. In general, you want to have a little bit of a layout and formatting and a hierarchy to that. So the first line, doc type, is telling the browser that this is an HTML doc. The second line is the language. So HTML language is English. It could be FR for French or CN for Chinese, or sorry, CH for Chinese. Head is sometimes called header. This is not rendered by the browser itself as text, except for the title. So generally a browser will take the title tag, what's in the content within the title tag, and it will make that the title of the tab, or the title of the page itself. The first line, it says meta char set equals UTF-8. That is essentially just the UTF-8. It's character encoding. It's really useful because there's a little over 1 million encoded characters that are included in UTF-8. So like it has all the Chinese characters, which is well above 25,000. It has lots of other scripts. It has emojis, a bunch of stuff. So there is a little over 1 million characters that are within that character set. So you want to say that this is the character set we're using as opposed to some other character set. It's about 80% of websites now encode with that character set. The third one we won't use in this video, but we'll use it in the second video we do on cascading style sheets. This is just giving us a reference to a style sheet. And so just another thing to be forewarned, the HTML that we make, because it's unstyled, or it's styled by the browser, it's going to be ugly. It's not going to look good. To make something that looks good, you're going to need some CSS. But we'll have the framework there. And so in the second video, we're going to take the HTML that we create and we're going to make it look way better just by adding a little bit of styling to that. And so that third line here is telling us that there's a folder called CSS, and then within that folder there's a file called style.css that it should use as its style sheet. And then you close the header tag with a /head. The tag right below it is the body tag. So anything between the opening and closing body tag is going to be rendered by the browser, if it should be. Meaning if it's something like H1 or P, those are going to get rendered. And then following the closing body tag, you close the HTML tag, and that's the boilerplate. Okay, so here's our project. We want to take this Google Doc. It's mostly about bears, and we want to create an HTML page that's rendered in our browser that has this content. And by this content, I mean it has the text, it has this image, it has our headers here. We have a link. It has our lists, including our unordered list and our ordered list here. And then at the bottom, it has a video that we can actually watch directly within the browser. So that's our goal. If you recall on the last slide, I mentioned some of this HTML boilerplate. And this is kind of the boilerplate that we want to use minus what the text is here in the body, but we definitely want to have some boilerplate. So I'm going to run over to VS Code. I created an index.html file underneath this lab4 directory here, just to get us started. And so my goal first is just get my basic boilerplate, my HTML boilerplate set up. So I'm going to start typing doc type HTML. And so I'm going to tab back and forth just so you can see how I'm doing it. And then this is lowercase HTML lang. I'll hit tab, and it will kind of help me by saying, oh, I know you're going to have this equals and then a parentheses and do en. Close that. Cool. And it also closed my HTML for me. Now we need a head, and it closes this. Enter. Sorry. Meta char and hit tab, and it will already help me with that. And UTF-8. Right. So all I'm basically doing is going through and putting my boilerplate. Title. What's my title? All about mostly about bears. I'm going to give myself the option of having things that maybe non-bear related stuff on there as well. All right, so the third one will be a link to my style sheet. Link rel tab is called style sheet, right? Style sheet, and then href equals and CSS. That'll be the folder. I'll make that folder in a second. Style sheet. We'll call it styles.css. So we don't have to we actually can just save this here. And we don't have to make this a folder called CSS underneath our lab4 folder for now. We can leave it for the second video. And it's not going to cause any errors or anything, but we want to kind of have this as a reminder. All right. And then we need our body tag. So let's go ahead and do that. Body. We can leave out the ID. And just to get started, H1, mostly about bears. Okay. And let's save this. Now, to see it in a browser, we can, go to our Finder. I saved this in AppLab Lab 4 on my desktop. So now I see I've got an index.html file. I can double-click that, and it opens. Cool. So that's our index.html. If we go ahead and we left-click, I'm holding Control, left-click, View Page Source, we see our page source, which equals exactly, let me close this. It's exactly what we had written right there. So that's our HTML. And now we can start, if we would like, we can actually start to take this document and kind of convert it over to HTML. So the second one I'll do is I'll show you the image tag, because we have this image here, and you see I listed the source as one should do, and it's a JPEG. So I'm going to copy paste that because I know I'm going to need it. So go back to VS Code. And in the body, let's use an image tag, which is img. And if you recall, I said img will image tags can self-close, and so what I've just done here is self-closed. But if I save this and I go back and I refresh my index.html, there's nothing because I haven't added the source of the image. So that happens to be src equals, and then you add two parentheses, and you can put a link to the source, meaning this particular like image is located on this particular site. And so now if I save this, now that I have a source for my image, if I go back and I refresh, there he is, or she, sorry. So there's the bear. It's a little large. So another thing I can show you here is, let's say we wanted to just not have it be so big. We want to constrain the width. You can add another attribute, which is width. And again, equals to parentheses, and let's just make this like 320, so 320 pixels. Save that, and then tab, refresh. Great, so it's now 320 pixels wide by however many high. And this is proportionally, so you could have set length, and it would proportionally set the width to match so that it's not stretching it out. You can also set both if you really want to make sure it's a certain width and height. Great. So that's our image. Good. And the next thing we have is caption here. So for those people that are using a screen reader, or they're not downloading images because they're in a location where maybe they don't have a lot of data or something, you always want to add an alternative text to that. And so I'm going to copy this. And that is, alternative text is another attribute you can add called alt. And that would be the alternative text for that. And so I had alt, bear in captivity, holding a log. So something else we can do is I'm selecting width and hitting enter. So you don't have to keep everything on one line. You can wrap lines like what I just did here. So if we save it, we should be able to go back here and still, yeah, and it still works. Right, okay. Now we've got an introduction, we've got types of bears, how to survive a black bear encounter, bear video. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is I'm going to add my headings. So I have these, these 4 headings here, and I'll add that to my body. So let's do H2 because we're using H1 for the top level one. So we can do H2, introduction. I'll have something there later in a second, another H2, types of bears. And then we have another H2 here for how to survive a black bear encounter. Black bear encounter. These are super useful, actually. Black bears, yeah. Okay, and then bear videos. And this last one, bear video. I think we just have one. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back here and refresh. Good. Okay, so there's our H2s. You notice the font's a little smaller. So let's add now we can start adding our content. And so I'm just going to copy this. And under introduction, we'll use the paragraph tag. So that's P. And I pasted it, and it's like going way off the screen. So in this case, I'm going to just kind of try to justify it a little bit here so that it's easier for us to see. That's also good practice. And then I'll take this P tag here and go like that. This really just depends on how you like to have things formatted. Okay. And then I'll refresh. Great. Okay. So there's all my stuff. What we're missing, though, is this here was a link. So this here actually links to Wikipedia. So in that case, I think we should really be thinking about linking that to Wikipedia. So I'll take this change. I'm going to copy this here, and so I'll show you quickly how we can create a link kind of in line so that the word is here actually underlines and takes us where we want to go. Href. So we use this Href, and some of you might have seen this before. And what we would like to do with the Href is we want to do Href. We know it's going to say here, so I'll delete that. Equals, and then within the parentheses, we're going to this particular URL. And we could kind of and then I closed it. We could keep it like this, and if I save it and I go back here, I refresh, you now see that this is here, and if you look below, you'll see if I click this, it's going to go to Wikipedia. So that's how you make a link. That's the basic way of making a link. But let's just say we don't want the user to leave our page also. We want this to open in a new window. And so similar to what we did with the image source, where we had this attribute for width, we can do the same thing with that. So it's actually called target equals, and then that attribute is an underscore blank. So if we have target equals underscore blank, that's telling our browser that we want a blank window. So if I save this, go back, refresh, and then click this, and we get a new tab. So we still have our 2 tabs open. Cool. And so that's something you probably want to do unless you definitely want them leaving your page. Okay, and now we've got types of, so under types of bearers, we have this unordered list. So let me show you how you can make that. So this is actually, lists are started with UL for an unordered list and OL for an ordered list. So if we do the UL tag, we can start adding list items, which is the LI tag. And for list items, I'm just going to copy paste brown bears. Oh, maybe I won't copy paste because I'm going to add some other stuff in there. Brown bears, polar bears. There's more than these type of bears, but let's just say we just want to have 3. And LI, giant panda bears, got to include them. Okay, and then let's save this, go back here to our index, refresh. Cool, so we've got our unordered list here. That's done. And then the last one, well, second to last, is how to survive a black bear encounter. This is useful. So that we're going to have an ordered list because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So to do that, we still want to make a list, but it's OL for ordered list instead. And we can use LI for the list items there. So I know I'm going to have 4 of them. So let's just go ahead and copy paste 4. And then I'm going to copy these. Okay. Let's also justify that so we don't have to, yeah, okay, good. So we can see everything. All right, stand your ground and make lots of noise. Yeah, this is only for black bears. You don't want to do something like this with grizzly bears. It's totally different. Like, for example, you don't want to fight back against a grizzly. So maybe if we were going to add a new feature to this site, we would probably want to have like a how to survive a grizzly bear encounter too. Okay, so all I'm doing is just adding those items and saving it, and then I'm going to come over here and refresh, and 1, 2, 3, 4, done. Okay, and then this last one I want to add is I had a video here. So I have this .webm video. You can have different types of videos can be played. WebM video happens to be one that I found. Like MP4 is one, lots and lots of different types. So how do we do that? So let's go under bear videos here, and we use the video tag. So HTML has a video tag, and one attribute you want to add is called the controls attribute. So this just says that it should show controls for the video. Without controls, then no one can control it. So it's like good practice to do that. And then let's go ahead and use source, and then src, right? And then copy this here. So within the video tag, you can have the source. You can have different types of sources depending on what the browser supports. So this is actually pretty cool because you can, encode a few different types of videos, and then it will cycle through depending if the browser supports it. And then we need to tell it what type it is. So type equals, and this type is video, if I can spell, WebM. webm. And then we close the source tag here. So let me move my editor open so you can, or this thing over so you can kind of see. Right. And so this is the source of my video, which comes from, here, this particular like GitHub user account. I found a bear video there. And I'm just adding the, a link to that source here, and then telling it what type of video it is. And then if you want to be like very, very nice, you can also add something like your browser does not support the video tag. So this would only show up if the person was using a browser that didn't support this tag. And let's save that out and go back here and refresh. Nice, and we see our bear video here loading, hopefully, yes. And we've got our controls, so nice. So we've added some video, useful. If we didn't have the controls, I'll just show you what this looks like. If we just included video and we refresh, then you kind of have no way of playing it. So you want to make sure you have that attribute set. And in addition, just like we did with the image, you can add width to that. So I thought that was a little small, so I might do width equals 320 as well. And then if we go back and refresh, well, yeah, it's the same width as this one. So that's okay. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our, we're only really missing one thing here. Like, I for some reason I've made the word bear bold. So if you want to, there's inline ways to style this. So carry pepper spray. Let's just be true to what we wrote in our Google Docs. And so you can use tags within tags, which is nice. So the one that's bold is strong. It's the strong tag. So I'm going to copy out there. So sometimes your development environment, like VS Code, will be a little too smart for you and ends up creating more work, because I just wanted to type strong and then type the closing tag. But I added one of these, carry strong bear pepper spray. Let's save this and refresh. And we see the word bear is now bold. Bear pepper spray. Another thing we can do, there's many different types of tags here. The EM tag is going to create italics. It's going to make it italicized. So if we put pepper spray within an EM tag, and we go over here and we refresh, we see pepper spray becomes italicized. Not really a big reason why one would want to do that. But we could keep going through here and bear attack and bears and all that. But instead, I'm just going to go like this. Bears are excellent climbers. Black bears are excellent climbers. Okay. Nice. All right. So if I'm looking around at this and I look at my website, this is my HTML. There's good things and bad things here. Good thing, all my content is there. And I even have my video working, which is not actually working here. And even if I click on this file, it's unlikely it doesn't even run when I'm trying to open it there. So that's the positive side, is you can already kind of see that even without any styling whatsoever, this maybe is a better way to present the information, kind of. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's really ugly because we don't have any style sheet added to this. So I'm going to stop here. There's quite a lot of other resources for you to learn about HTML and tags, and I'll include that all in the article that you're going to watch or read that this video is included in, so that you have a way to dig a little bit deeper, because we really only covered some super basic stuff. In fact, we didn't even cover divs, which are used a lot. We didn't cover IDs, which are also used a lot, and those are going to come through like in some later videos, and and articles, because I thought it would be good to just show you very basic, super basic HTML, some basic tags, allow you to create a page, understand how to add media to that page, and we covered that, right? So we have a way to add images, and we can add videos, we can add links, add a little bit of that kind of really basic, I won't call it interactivity, but certainly the hypertext part of HTML you guys should all get. Thanks.